Okay, look at this number, 195 and 0. For decades, this was one of the most unbreakable records in all of professional sports. I mean, it was an almost perfect guarantee of victory. And then, in 2022, the impossible happened. The streak, it was broken. So the question is, how, right? How does an organization so famous for its dominance develop such a fatal flaw? So today, we're going to break down the anatomy of the Dallas Cowboys' nearly three-decade Super Bowl drought. It's a story of, well, incredible success, but also just baffling failure and a championship blueprint that seems to have been completely lost to time. So that 195-0 record, what was that all about? Well, it was the franchise's all-time record when they were leading a game by 14 or more points heading into the fourth quarter. Think about that. It was basically a lock, a symbol of their ability to just slam the door. And when it finally broke, phew, it exposed this deep, deep paradox right at the heart of the team. I mean, for nearly 30 years now, the Dallas Cowboys have been one of the most valuable, most famous sports teams on the entire planet. And yet, they haven't even gotten close to a Super Bowl appearance. This isn't just a run of bad luck, folks. This is something systemic. And to really get why, we've got to go back and look at how they used to win. You see, the Cowboys' empire, it was really built on two totally different but, equally powerful championship blueprints. So on one side, you've got the legendary Coach Tom Landry. I mean, this guy was the absolute definition of stability. He coached for 29 seasons and had 20 straight winning seasons. That's an NFL record. Then, on the other hand, you've got Jimmy Johnson, who was just this transactional genius. He was all about aggressive trades, building a powerhouse team, and doing it fast. So two totally different ways of doing things, but they both led to the same thing, pure dominance. Now, the one deal, the one single transaction that completely defined the Jimmy Johnson era, it was the Herschel Walker trade. And listen, this wasn't just a trade. It was like an organizational big bang. There's a reason people still call it one of the biggest heists in sports history. But see, the real genius here wasn't just getting those 8 draft picks. The magic was in how they used them. They treated those picks like currency, making an incredible 51 other trades to dance around the draft board. And that's how they landed Emmitt Smith, the NFL's all-time leading rusher, and the absolute foundation of that 90s dynasty. I mean, come on, that's just pure strategic brilliance. And you can see the difference between smart and, well, not so smart asset management right here on this slide. Look, in '92, they gave up just 2 mid-round picks for Charles Haley. He was the final piece of the puzzle, and their defense immediately became the best in the league. Now, contrast that with the 2008 trade for Roy Williams. They gave up a ton of high picks for a guy who was a total bust, and it cost them millions. One trade builds a dynasty. The other one? It basically signals its downfall. But the absolute key to all of this, the secret sauce, was balance. During their 3 Super Bowl runs in '90s, the Cowboys' offense ranked, on average, second best in the league, and their defense, third. Just look at how close those bars are. That near-perfect symmetry meant they could win any kind of game, a shootout or a defensive slugfest. That is the blueprint, okay? Remember this chart, because it's going to be important later. But after that 3rd Super Bowl, something changed. The organization started to drift away from the very things that made them great. The formula somehow was lost. So, first thing to go, stability. They completely abandoned that Landry method. I mean, they went from 1 coach in 29 years to 8 coaches in about the same amount of time. And with that constant revolving door, there's just no way to build a consistent identity or a winning culture. And yeah, that transactional discipline, poof, gone. The Roy Williams trade wasn't just a bad deal in a vacuum. It was this massive opportunity cost, wasting the exact same kind of draft capital that Jimmy Johnson had so brilliantly used to build a dynasty. It's like they completely forgot their own history. And this strategic drift, it wasn't just some abstract front office problem. No, it created very real, very modern symptoms of failure that you can see and measure right on the field today. And one of the biggest symptoms we see is this high-risk philosophy in the draft. For years now, the Cowboys have consistently gambled on super talented players who have major injury red flags, all in the hopes of finding a bargain. But those gambles, they come with a hidden and often a really devastating cost. So let's take the gamble on linebacker Jalen Smith. When that didn't work out, the team got slapped with a $16.6 million dead cap penalty. Now, what that means is you're paying millions for a player who isn't even on your team anymore. That money just vanishes. It's a financial black hole, and it absolutely cripples your ability to sign other healthy players. Okay, and this is probably the most damning piece of evidence right here. Remember that balance chart from the dynasty years I told you to remember? Well, this is the modern Cowboys. In a recent season, they had the #1 offense in the entire league, paired with the 31st ranked defense. Look at that difference. This isn't just an imbalance, it's a completely broken roster. It's a recipe for disaster. So what's the end result of all this? What does it look like on the field? It looks like a massive clutch deficit. That completely unbalanced roster, plus the lack of coaching stability, means they just can't close out big games. Between 2011 and 2014, they were tied for the most blown fourth quarter leads in the whole league. And that brings us right back to where we started. That perfect 19-0 record. It was shattered because the team's defensive foundation had just completely crumbled away. Okay, but the good news here is that the problems are really clear. They're identifiable. And the solution isn't about inventing some brand new radical idea. It's actually about going back to the original blueprint. All right, so here's the 4-point plan to get things back on track. First, you gotta bring back that transactional discipline. No more of those crazy, risky trades like the one for Roy Williams. Second, you have to manage the risk. Hey, if you're gonna gamble on injured players, you have to budget for it when it blows up in your face. Third, you absolutely have to mandate that offensive and defensive symmetry. An elite offense with a terrible defense just doesn't win championships. It doesn't work. And finally, create some defensive stability. Stop the coordinator carousel and go invest in those game-changing pass rushers, just like they did with Charles Haley. You see, the path forward is actually pretty clear because their own history laid it out perfectly for them. But that leaves us with the final big question. After nearly 30 years of drifting away from the very lessons that built their own dynasty, can the Cowboys ever really find their way back?